Joel Griffin Dodd is an English-born world traveler / nomad. He's lived on 4 continents, and he's finally settled down in Southern California. He's from a family of multi-generational spiritual healers and mediums, and he is of Irish descent. This has prompted him to seek out common denominators between Eastern and Western philosophies, pointing to the true nature of reality and the human experience. Joel is a friend. We chat often. We met on UFO Twitter, and here we go into some wild and crazy stuff. But it's good. Dig into some of the resources we spoke about. This won't be the last time that he and I talk, and if you have any questions, just hit us up.
Your camera looks good. No, that's just me.
That's just me, baby. That's my natural glow. Natural glow.
Oh my God, how are you, man?
I'm good. How you been? I mean, we've
man.
been trying to do this for a year.
Yeah. Well, at least. I mean, the last time
like
we
that.
chatted was like, it was for that. I mean, you had your own channel back then, dude. That was like a year. Oh, it was like 2 years ago, at least, right? Like
Yeah, I was pretty sure we'd done a show. We did do a show.
We did do a show.
I was listening to Duncan Trussell on Lex Friedman. Did one like a week back or so. I love Duncan Trussell. He is one of my favorite listens when he's on Rogan.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I love it, man. He's good.
But the thing I love about the most is they always do fancy dress. Like,
they do. It's always just like, you know, like the 4th of July one. They were all like colonial stuff. It was great, man.
And that, they're getting deep, because they get stoned and they're getting deep into conversation, and they just completely forgot that they have those costumes on.
Like there was a time they were dressed like wizards at one time. It was like.
I think there was one time when like Trussell was in like a full ghillie suit.
Yeah, it was during COVID. I think it was during COVID, so he didn't get it.
I love it. I was like, we should do that. We should do that.
And he's like, all right. And Rogan's like, I don't care. Let's do it. I think that's cool because you can tell they're actually friends, like they're actually like friends, man. Like us, dude. We're friends. I mean, super rad. I mean, we've known each other for a long time, and we don't publicly interact all that much. I mean, it's a shit show that UFO Twitter is anyway. We try to like poke and prod at the seams and try to weave themes and narratives that aren't necessarily introduced. And dude, you came up with a list. Jeez.
Yeah, the only reason I did this was because there are so many sort of interlocking parts to it all. And I mean, you know what it's like when we're always trying to put things together and you're looking at 5 things at a time, 10 things at a time,
20, 30. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't keep up with you guys half the time.
I can't.
So
either, man. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we've been doing some amazing research, but it always comes back to the most inconspicuous things, dark thing. Yeah, they're really dark things, man. And it's just, I mean, John Luke and I spent a week at John Warner's house in DC and in Virginia. And, we had like a whole entire week of like conversations that are just, I mean, the most intense, in-depth, you're talking years, 20 plus years of research at minimum out of all of us. And then you got Warner, who's done the deep history drive and his family connections. And then no matter what, it always gets back, and it's always dark, man, no matter what, it always happens that way. And it's just kind of like, what do you do, man? And I don't know. I mean,
I think with Warner as well, as like his perspective, where he's been witnessing all of this stuff from is a very, very different place than most of us.
Yeah. And I mean, you can't say that he's not. Ooh, that was a weird noise. That he's not. He has his opinions, but they're well informed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's been sitting in a place that very few of us have a view into in any way, shape, or form,
or ever will.
Yeah, absolutely. But he comes out the gate so hard with it. I think that's where he probably loses a lot of people, because they just don't have the framework, they don't have the background or any of the understanding that he has.
Right.
And he just comes like a bull out, of the gate. and you're just like, whoa, where's this guy coming from? So I'm not surprised that people were just like, yeah.
Yeah, oh no, and I get it, man. It's just that he, it's hard because I mean, like guys like John Luke and I who have done the research, you've been around, have delved deep into this whole thing, can hang because we know, we can have these conversations that normally, like the conversations we have that most people can't normally have, and I think that's needed, and I think that there's going to be more of that needed if and when, the UFO messiahs actually produce a body or craft or whatever they're going to pop out of the closet. I think that there's going to have to be a lot more conversations. There's going to be a lot of people that have nowhere to go and nowhere to talk to, and I think it's great that we can actually be there for each other as friends, and then maybe the little things we do like this little podcast may help other people go, hey, I'm not alone, or I have these thoughts too, or whatever. Oh, cool. I've been looking into that my whole life. I just didn't know where that puzzle fit until now. And dude, I mean, we're there. And I think the whole outline you dropped earlier is just, let you take the wheel. Don't let me pull you back from any of that. And I know you wanted to do this, and thanks for coming on and like hanging out. And I know you got some things you want to get off your chest, and
I mean, not really. As far as the whole UFO world for me right now has become so. It's a small part. It's a very small piece,
right,
of where my viewpoint, my view has expanded so widely in ways that I never thought it would, and now. It's like that was the seed,
right?
That was the
gateway drug, right? We were joking about that in the chat the other day. It's like like UFOs are the gateway drug, right? It's like, hey, have a hit of this, and then oh, wait a minute, boom, we're gonna go all the way over here to consciousness, and
and like I said the other day, I was the last person that would end up in the Jungian camp, and I said it, and John Luke's just like, yeah. I was like, oh, fine, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Stop being right all the time. Eh? No one thinks you're clever. So we all think you're clever.
We all think you're clever. We all think you're amazingly clever. No, I mean, but how do you? I think that once you see past that part of it, you get into this deeper part, and it's not like you automatically start believing in unicorns and fairy tales. It's like, well, and once you realize that A, the government's been lying to you for 75 years, B, just through any minute research you've ever done in your life can tell that there's a broader reality than we're being presented in any type of form anywhere on the planet. You start to open in your mind to like a whole world of things that, may not be possible or, probable, but there's a possibility there that could be actual reality. That could be what we are engaged with every single day. And like, you've done an amazing job putting this together, and I'm gonna let you go, man. If you want to touch on any of this stuff, I mean, there's so many concepts here that you've gone, when we first, I hope I'm not airing dirty laundry, but when we first got into a chat together with our group that we have, you were on the one side where like none of this shit is possible. I don't believe any of this shit at all. It's nuts, nuts and bolts, not necessarily, but like you were kind of on the, and correct me if I'm, saying anything incorrect here, but like you were just kind of like, this is all bullshit, and you guys are on, what are you guys sniffing to? Like, well, I can kind of see where all this shit is going, right? I mean, is that kind of, did I phrase that right? I mean,
it's it's so difficult to put into words.
Right.
Just be all these cuts like, that's it. I've been framed.
That's how most of my damn shows are anyway. I got to cut out all the shit we're not allowed to talk about or supposed to talk about. But yeah.
So I was just like I was in the car on the way home thinking, okay, we're going to do the show, get together. And, I haven't done any shows for a long time. I've been trying to just stay off of that circuit and read and read as much as I could. And And you know what it's like. As soon as you start doing that, you get this book, and this book talks about this one thing, and you're like, well, I haven't heard of that thing. And then they'll mention a book by an author, or they'll cite some other thing. And before you know it, it's just this infinite expanding network, this tree of branches that they just start flying off all over the place. And your book, your to-read list, it's just like the Empire State Building.
Yeah. No, that's it, man. And then you're like, well, where did this all come from? And then you try to boil it down. Well, and I think we do a lot of really good stuff in our group. I mean, because we have a lot of people that kind of know that have already maybe one step up removed or ahead or behind of that curve. And it's kind of like, and we're really good at researching and going, oh, wait, what about this? Boom. And putting these things together. And it's amazing the kind of the things we've come up with, I mean,
yeah. And then you find one link and you go, ah, he's like, oh, why did I read that?
It's like, I'm not going to sleep for 2 months now. And I can't.
Yeah.
But who am I going to tell? You guys. I'm going to tell you guys.
That's it. I mean, you get to the point where I think you're so deep into this stuff, or you've gone like so far out there that your options are to, talk to the small group of people who are following a similar path, or basically the author of the book who died in the 1800s.
Or your psychologist.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't talk to anybody else about it, right?
Yeah, a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've always had an interest in Eastern philosophies.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, all the way back when I started sort of poking my head into ideas around, what paranormal and, UFO stuff is this idea that, look, these philosophies, these religions, they've been around for thousands upon thousands of years.
Right.
And they're pretty well documented, and the documentation has been pretty well preserved. So I feel like it'd be really, really foolish to not take them into account. I mean, there's got to be stuff there, This isn't just people all getting high and making shit up and then spending days coughing them into tablets for no apparent reason.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like the base. I mean, and if you go with the whole cargo cult, that premise that at least the Secret Machines book, Lavinda and, DeLong are going with, where if you base it all off of the cargo cult, where they experience something significant enough, like you said, to be able to document it, people spend their life documenting or preaching it or whatever, right? I mean, it had to be such of an experience. And like Pasulka, you go right to that now, who's like going right to the other end where that's what we're seeing now. It's the cult of the UFO, right? I mean, it's just another religion that doesn't have a name yet, or does, maybe, I don't know, but that's exactly
she did a brilliant job of kind of drawing the parallels, so that all the iconography, the sacred locations, the artifacts. I mean, she really just like listed it out, bang, 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 bang. And I think the first time I read the book, I was very much kind of new, reasonably new as far as taking an objective standpoint to the subject. So I read that book like I think a lot of people did. It was like, well, this is kind of cool. They're out and they're going to crash sites and they're finding pieces, and they're, this guy's from NASA and he seems really high up and he knows what he's doing.
Special
metal detectors.
Metal detectors that, so I've been researching that. I'm like, fucking special metal detector, man.
I know. It's like,
unless there's something I don't know. Like, I mean, it's metal, right? I mean,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, there's, and then you go down that whole line where, I mean, you're right. The bullet points line right up, right? It's like all of the religious aspects of it there. And it's almost frightening.
Well, you realize when you read the book, I think the second time, and you've got a better perspective, you realize, no, this woman embedded herself with these people. She embedded herself with believers the way any good investigative journalist does.
Right.
And because of her speciality, she was able to see through a lens that most people can't see. She has this amazing foundation and understanding of not only religion from a belief standpoint, but she understands it from a structural standpoint.
Right.
Sort of how they come to be, what they look like, how they're organized. And then you start to realize she's literally saying, no, this is a religion. You guys you're not listening to what I'm saying.
Right.
And that was a real eye opener. for me, because it kind of really started me off down the lines of understanding belief systems.
Okay.
And watching how belief systems, affect people. It doesn't matter that you're an admiral in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have personal belief systems. And,
Yeah.
if your religion is very important to you, and you feel like it is, a moral guide, then you are going to bear it in mind when you make key decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not to be mocked or looked at in any kind of non-serious way. I mean, it's a real thing that happens and has happened throughout the entire history of the world.
Right.
So it's a big deal.
But in America anyway, we try to, just because of the enormity of the whole separation of church and state, I think we tend to, as a society, glaze over. Not everybody, but I think there's a lot of glossing over of the whole separation between church and state, where but then you have some political, people in politics that'll run on, basically religious tickets. And I wouldn't even say that it was a ticket, but it's like, they have the backing of this religious institution, whatever that is, right? They have this type of backing where there's, the congregation, whatever, the believers of whoever, well, he's a Christian, so whatever, or, this person's a Muslim, so they're already put into a different box than the Christians. And then, you already have that categorization anyway. But I think in America, with the original premise was like, hey, let's separate that shit, right? This is the church and this is the state. But like you said, it bleeds over to even a personal decision on so many levels that it's you can't separate the two, right? There's no way.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the wording, it's separated of church and state. It's not separation of belief or moral values and state.
There you go.
And yeah, I mean, I think it's no secret that, America was founded by people that were sick of the shit that people from my country were doing. Well, especially right. Yeah. Hey, fuck you, Brits. But they were tired of the church. They were tired of the church having so much influence over the decisions that were being made.
Right. Right.
So I think it's kind of important to look at that detail and say, yeah, separation of church and state, but that doesn't mean that the forefathers, the founding fathers of the country, and many influential decision makers are, of course, going to be they're going to be guided by their faith because they see it as their moral foundation that keeps them, on the straight and narrow. So I think it's a bit naive to think that wouldn't be the case.
Right. But then, all of this does play into everything we're talking about in terms of any type of political influence that any of the UFO topic has throughout the years. I mean, we've heard, we've been berated with how many times we've been heard from the talking heads that said that, somebody higher up didn't want to look into UFOs because it was demonic, right? It was evil, and we don't want to look into that, and I look at all of that from a two-sided mirror, right? In my perspective, anytime I've ever presented with any type of that information, I go, well, really? I mean, what if we just turn that all the way around and look at it from the other way? I mean, what's the truth here? I mean, like, we're getting one side of the story per se, but what does that really mean? Is that really happening? Or is it, like you said, the influence of one person's moral beliefs, or is there a more directed, concerned effort from a larger group, that may have a larger influence that we are unaware of inside of these institutions that are, maybe pulling the triggers on money or donations or something like that are, putting these people into positions where they're at? Is that part of it? Is the complete opposite of what they're telling you?
It's never simple.
No.
I mean, people are always trying to boil things down to little quick headlines or snippets or memes. I mean, the article that I wrote, like Cowboys and UFOs versus the MIC.
Yes.
I had a whole section in there that I'd written about the Collins elite, or the concept of the Collins elite.
Right.
but as I looked at it more, I was like, yeah, I hear this come up a lot. It's a very interesting perspective, but outside of Nick Redfern's book, I was like, where is the evidence for this? Where is the meat that really supports these concepts outside of the idea that it sounds like a plausible thing?
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, I just decided to drop it from the article. I just didn't feel like there was enough weight to it. And other people talk about it. It's been brought up. I know like Elizondo has said multiple times that he was frustrated when he was inside, and he'd just come up against too much religious pushback.
Right.
So I think everyone jumped to the Collins Elite thing on that, and I'm like, yeah, is it though?
Yeah.
So I think you got to be careful with that stuff.
Right. Oh, yeah. And you do. But I mean, it's, I think we never talk about, what do they always say? You never talk about politics or religion in public, right? Because you're going to piss somebody off no matter what, right? And those are the hot topics. And, those cross into ufology and whatever else constantly. But people are still, even people that are used to speaking about fringe topics or things that you normally wouldn't have at a dinner conversation, still do not want to bring up religion or politics in the middle of this stuff. And it's I think it's needed, but why though? I mean, some of the topics you're talking about here, and I don't want to get away from them, but I mean, like, they fold into matters that transcend those things completely. So I don't even know where to begin.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good enough segue when you're talking about people expressing things that they have deep belief in. They've had profound experiences, then of course that's a very passionate thing. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've been wrestling with over the last couple of years and really trying to get my head into is that let's take a bunch of steps back from any particular topic that you want to talk about that involves something that is profound or something that really challenges your sense of reality. Mm-hmm. And there are many things that can fit into those categories. And I think anyone who's done a decent amount of research into any kind of paranormal or unusual experience field starts coming across a lot of the same examples over and over. And as long as you're not one of these guys that says, well, I only research Bigfoot, and I don't pay any attention to apparitions of the Virgin Mary.
Right.
I don't think there's many researchers that are that hardcore. They're quite open-minded, and they say, well, are there links here? You're always looking to find connections, right? That's what makes good research. But for me, I try to really come all the way back out of it. And because my interest in Eastern philosophies and Buddhism, especially over the years, I really sort of tried to start from a place of, what is reality? Mm-hmm. And that for me is if you can't start wrapping your head around that, then I think you're building the rest of your pyramid of data on a faulty foundation. Mm. So we'll just start off with what is reality. I'm not even halfway into my first beer.
I brought the whole bottle down.
Right. So let's get that one out of the way. I've really been enjoying the work of people like Donald Hoffman, for example. Great book, The Case Against Reality, where he makes this fantastic, very compelling argument that what we witness and what we call reality is nothing, it's nothing more than a range of signals that come to you from 5 quite limited senses. Mm-hmm. And we've proven that to ourselves through our advancements in technology. We realize that the human ear can only hear from, well, depending on how old you are.
Yeah, for me, not much.
Right. And if
especially when my wife's yelling at me, I don't hear any of that.
If the wife's giving you a hard time, it's it drops down to a real low range.
Can't hear that part.
Seriously.
Yeah.
but your vision, you only see a very small slit of the electromagnetic spectrum, and so on and so on and so on. We have a very, very limited range of experience. And if I had someone give a great breakdown of it. So think about yourself in a completely black void, a vacuum. There's nothing for you to touch. There's nothing for you to smell or taste. Nothing for you to hear. Nothing for you to see. So complete sensory deprivation. Try and imagine yourself at that place.
Mm-hmm.
Now introduce sound.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you're starting to get some sense of your place in that void. Something is loud, it feels closer. If you have stereo sound, then you've got some kind of positional coordinates that you can put together. Okay, so next let's introduce smell. Well, now you have 2 points of data, and if there are smells associated with things as they come closer or go further away, you're starting to build another more complex image.
Right.
You introduced sight, you introduced the other senses, and you've gone just in those 5 steps. Those 5 steps.
Five.
It's
only your first beer, right?
I know. It's very strong. It's like 4.5%. I'm not a lightweight, honest. Wait till the end of the interview. So we've gone from absolute void to describing our entire human experience in only 5 steps.
Right.
And that's pretty wild. It really kind of puts it into context for you.
Especially when you look at some of the stuff that, I mean, I've seen Grant Cameron kind of tip me up to the stuff that they're doing, the kids that are seeing blindfolded, right? Have you seen any of that stuff? They're blindfolded, and they're, people, they're mindfold, they call them, right? So they got the kid that he had on there that had, they taped his eyes shut. They literally taped him shut, and they put this thing on there. They had sensors in there, and they know that there's no light getting in. This kid's getting in a car, and he's driving around.
Wow, I haven't seen that one.
Or
I saw the ones where they sense color with touch.
Yeah, color with touch. Yeah. They have that, and all the other things where they put them on a bicycle and they ride a bicycle through an obstacle course they've never seen before, or hand them a book they've never read before, and the kids can read a book. Like,
you should be taking that kid to Vegas. Why is he driving around the parking lot?
I know, right? Get him out of there.
Table.
Yeah. It's like, what does that guy's card say?
Yeah. Go over there, sit next to the roulette table, sniff the wheel. Mm-hmm. Sniff the wheel, buddy. Don't tell me where it's going to land.
But I mean, like you're saying, though, we have no idea of anything. I mean, we turn on these senses and we think that's it, and there's all of that stuff. I mean, for God's sakes, the animals that we kill and eat, can see an infrared.
Right. Yet it doesn't matter how many steaks I eat, I still can't see an infrared. What the hell's up with that?
What's up with that? But yeah,
I'm supposed to be consuming your power.
People still believe that in some parts of the world, I mean, they still kill rhinoceroses to eat their horns, and it's a damn shame.
Yes.
I mean, that's
yeah, horny horn.
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. Objective reality is objective. I mean, your reality is completely different from mine than anybody else's. But we have this shared collective consciousness, right?
Right.
Or this matrix, or whatever you want to call it, right? We share. This is a microphone. That's a microphone. This is a shirt. I mean, we know these things, or we can at least project them into our own reality. But then where does the weird shit come into play, right?
Right. So you've got this collective, you got a collective subjective reality.
Right.
And I think that's the first key point that it's important to point out, at least to follow us down the route that we're going to take here, is that the idea that when you turn off the computer game, all of the items that existed inside that game just continue to exist somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great analogy for thinking about the way that potentially we look at the universe, and that is certainly the ideas that are communicated through some of these very, very ancient philosophies that have been around for a long time. And they communicate them in these very beautiful, poetic ways, like where we're just dreaming our existence, or in the beginning there was the Word. The idea that if God looked away for even a second, that we would all cease to exist. And these are all the same examples of this idea that our reality only really exists because we witness it existing.
Right.
And the idea of an objective reality in this model requires us all to just basically agree on our subjective realities. And it's almost as if the more people agree, then the more it hardens into this consistent sort of coherent space.
Right.
And then, and then Hoffman does a great job of basically saying, because we have this limited set of senses and because they have a limited range of experience, then there's a good chance that maybe earlier in our development that perhaps we could see more, perhaps we could hear more, and so on and so on. But because we need to survive, and the human body is a survival machine, right?
Right.
The only function of the human body is to stay alive long enough to fuck, so we can make some more human bodies, and then just die and get out the way.
What do you want to do when you grow up, Joel? Well,
I already did it. You and I are just redundant now. It's just like, nah, did what you're supposed to do. Get out the way because evolution has got a job to do. So if you can't eat it, fuck it, have to fight it or run away from it, there isn't much point in it showing up in your senses.
So how do you do that? Where you put the UFO in that position?
Exactly right. Exactly. That's the question, right? Where does that fit? Why does that show up on the radar?
Because it doesn't. I think it shows up because it doesn't. Right. So then there's that thing. So then it automatically takes you away from all of those preliminary aspects of your reality and you go, well, that's not part of the puzzle. I mean, that's not part of my reality that I can put into words. And a lot of people just go, and the wheels just spin out and they take off, or they go down the whole rabbit hole of, the shame and the ridicule that the Robinson Commission, the panel did back in the 50s, that are just like, you're a crazy lunatic. If you see any of these things, you're nuts and you need to get your head examined. Right. So nobody wants to bring that up or talk about it. But like you said, in all the Eastern traditions, it's welcomed. It's like, oh, great. You saw the great fireball in the sky. Thank you. Come to our bonfire later. We're going to talk all about it.
Right. Because they've built into their culture a space for this to exist, and they haven't taken. There's so much about Eastern tradition. I swear this is just my first beer. Eastern traditions and shamanic traditions.
Shamanic traditions, correct? Yeah.
South America as well. They have a place for symptoms. I hate that's a bad word, but for experiences that we would particularly usually put into the category of like schizophrenia.
Right.
They look at that as a potential future shaman, especially if it manifests in a child. And they will take that child and place that child with the shaman. And those people go on, in many cases, to become fully functional members of that community because it isn't ostracized.
Right.
They're not labeled as wrong or broken or insane.
Right.
And I think that's very important, not just because it sounds kind of cool from a social standpoint, but I think that when we're talking about this shared, agreed upon subjective reality, that they include the possibility in everybody's mind in that village or that community that there is a validity to the subjective experience of that person that has a place.
Right. In the community, and it's valued. It's not, like you said, it's not shunned. It's not broken, it's a place of value. And like you said, if they don't work out to be a shaman, they're still a member of the community. They're still, they still found they have, and maybe that's all the push they need to either embrace whatever they're dealing with or let go of it, and maybe that's, maybe, we always try to solve everything, and to our detriment, I think, at some part in the Western world where, you just look at modern medicine. Oh, you got a, eczema. We're going to give you pills for the rest of your life. And it's going to go away. It's going to be great. It's going to be good. Right. Okay, cool. Or, whatever. We always have to have a formula or a recipe or a prescription to solve every type of thing where, like you're saying, a lot of the Eastern traditions look at it from a holistic or spiritual or a whole other, whatever you want to call it, bucket of, hey, this is kind of what happens. We just kind of do this. And most of the time it works out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But,
they frame it in a way where they try and look at the relationship between the condition, the person, instead of just like you say, isolating it to a thing that doesn't have any relationship to anything else.
Right.
I think
we're
one
really
of the
good at
greatest
that as Americans. We're good at that as Americans. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are really good at that. It's like, it's this or that, and that's it.
I think it's just the Western civilization at some point they decided to stand up and say, look, that's all superstition and bullshit, and it's primitive, and we're not going to pay any attention to it. It doesn't fit into the scientific method. We want to be able to prove things, do it in a way where I can take my method, send it to you on the other side of the world. You can reproduce my method, get the same results, and we'll say, okay, that's real.
Right.
And that obviously has value in it, in the method itself. If it didn't, we wouldn't have all kinds of incredible breakthroughs that we have today.
Of course.
But the sterility of it, and we can kind of come back around to this a little bit later on. I think we've lost a massive amount of value in sterilizing everything and requiring it to fit into this tiny box.
Right.
And while it works for many things in the material world, and at an immediate level, good luck applying that to, why did I have an experience the other night that doesn't fit into any other paradigm that my culture allows for, and
except for religion. And I'm going to stop you because there's where it comes into play, right? So you can have that experience if it's tied to a religious type of connotation, where the voice I heard coming to me was God speaking to me, right? Or it was the angels that came to me from up high, or the devil was trying to influence me, or something like that. And I'm just using the Abrahamic religions right now, but the jinn, whatever, you can frame it in anything you want to in any type of religion. But if you put it into that connotation, people might still, who are not religious or part of that religion, go, maybe. But people that are full-blooded into that, and I'm a whatever religion I am, and I believe all this stuff is canon, then that's an experience that you have. And that fits into the thing, and maybe you're touched by the angels or God or something like else, right? But it's all, like you said, a frame of reference, right? So if you don't have any of that, or if you're not privy to it or believe in that, you fall outside of, you're an outlier, right?
Look at the chokehold, though.
Yeah.
It's like, here is your accepted frame of reference. So you cannot say it's any other thing. You can only say it's these things. And that's what a belief system is, right? It's a chokehold that says, you aren't going to be thinking about anything outside of this. By the way, if you do, well, it's not going to work out good for you. So fall in line.
Yeah.
To me, that's terrifying.
It is, but that's been happening for thousands of years based on pretty much the Vatican and the Catholic Church.
History of the world. Of the world, really.
Right. Really, yeah, you're right. But in the last 2,000 years, anyway, we'll talk about that.
But isn't in those circumstances, you start to wonder. It's like, okay, if you take away all of those control mechanisms, then you absolutely have to acknowledge the negative consequences of that.
Right.
And large amounts of our society are built around rules, agreed upon rules. But just coming back to the agreed sort of subjective realities, for some reason, we don't accept the idea of agreed upon realities. It's just like, no, there's just one reality, and it exists almost completely separate from you. It's like you don't have a relationship with it. I mean, it's kind of here to beat you around the head or chase you through the forest and kill you, or you can go out fishing in it, but you don't have a relationship to it. You are this like separate object.
Right.
And in Buddhism, sort of one of the key tenets of Buddhism is you have to let go of the illusion that you are separate from everything else.
Right.
And in the West, that is so alien to us as a concept, because it's very easy from a material standpoint to just say, well, I'm walking around, I'm separate, I have
my own thoughts. I am doing my own thing. I mean, nobody's telling me what to do. And
yeah, I'm not like stuck to anything else. So you can see how people look at that and say, nah, it just doesn't make sense to me. Stop. You get into woo, you're flying out there already. Yeah. But that's because we've been brought up in a culture that doesn't entertain that or give you any kind of scaffolding to wrap your head around. We were talking about the senses before, right?
Right.
And the idea, I mean, you could walk down the street and just pick any kind of random person and say, do you think your eyes work like video cameras? Like, I mean, in school, you did the whole basic biology thing, and there was the eyeball, and so, this is the lens,
and the ray,
the lens of the cornea. Yeah, the light comes in and signals, and they go to your brain. So people have this idea that your eyes are like video cameras, but they're not at all. That's not even close to the way your eyes work. Your eyes send data to your brain. They go through a pretty considerable filtering and buffering system where your brain is always looking to do the brain, the entire anatomy is looking to do the most work with the least amount of energy, right?
Right.
That is how nature works. It is always looking to be the most efficient it can be. So over time, your brain builds up a library of sort of pre-approved visual models of things. And in a way, it is kind of trying to predict what's going to happen next when you're looking out into the world. And if nothing changes from the prediction, your brain doesn't bother taking in that new information.
It just bypasses it, right?
It's just like, that's what I thought. It's just like, I knew that was going to happen. And
that's where a lot of the illusionists and things come in, because a lot of people from all throughout time have figured out the sleight of hand things, or like, you can play inside those spaces where you're talking about, where your brain can't process this because, and it's, believe it or not, it's a scientific study that has been done for thousands of years ago. Your brain is processing this part over here, and if it's at so many frames per second, it can't pick up this motion or this thing or whatever. And people can do things right in front of you where your brain just tosses it out. It's literally right in front of you, and you just...
There's a fantastic example, and you can see it online. I think it's called like the invisible gorilla experiment, something like that. You can find it on YouTube if you look for it. So it's just a still camera, and there's like 6 people in the camera frame, and they're all throwing a ball backwards and forwards to each other. I think there's like 6 people, 3 balls, and they're just generally just touching a ball backwards and forwards and catching it. Halfway through the video, a guy in a gorilla suit walks right through the middle of everybody. Now, apparently about 50% of people, the first time they watch that video,
don't see it.
They don't see the guy in a gorilla suit. Now, as soon as you tell them there's a guy in a gorilla suit that walks through the video, they watch it again and they see it.
Right.
And that it's an amazing experiment to witness, because if you see it and you're one of those people that does pick up on the guy in the gorilla suit, it's like a 6-foot dude in a gorilla suit. He walks right through the frame, and it's unbelievable to you. And this is really important, right? In my experience that I just had, I saw that guy in the gorilla suit, like you. And this is where the visceral responses come in. It's like, are you fucking blind? There's a guy in a giant gorilla suit. And then there's the other 50% of the people will say,
what are you talking about?
I didn't see, there was no guy in that gorilla suit. And then they all, proceed to beat each other to death with sticks and rocks. But it's a perfect example of a subjective experience. So there are scientific studies and methods and papers out there. And like you say, people have learned how to take advantage of these things, even just for stagecraft, for fun.
Right. Or you can go into the marketing, and I know you maybe have some experience in that, where, the subliminal messages or some of the cognitive symbology and marketing, will apply pressure to different parts of your brain that you didn't even know what's going on. Well, I see this and, oh boy, I want that, right? I want this thing, or I want that experience or whatever. And I mean, you can talk way more about it than I have. And and if you don't want to go there, I'm sorry if I push that button, but
yeah, no, 20 years in marketing and advertising, and I get this little twitch every time someone brings it up.
No, but I mean, people don't know about that side. I mean, I think it's a really good thing that you've been there, you've lived that. I mean, there's examples that the latest example, I'm a car guy, and the latest example that I know of recently was I think it was a Formula One racer, and I could be wrong, but it was, I think it was Formula One. It was a really fast car, and they outlawed cigarette brands from advertising. For I don't know if I'm wrong about this or not. Whatever. But the way they created this graphic on the side of this Formula One car, or this fast car, whatever it is, was that at high speeds it would basically have like the Marlboro logo or something on it, right? Or you would basically see it, right?
Yeah.
At high speeds, because this car is going 120 miles an hour, right? But if you looked at it, it was just a bunch of stripes.
Right.
But if the car is moving at 120, it's like blatantly the Marlboro logo, right? And you're like,
with the refresh rate of the camera,
right,
frames versus the speed. That's fucked up. That's why I got out of advertising.
That's like recently. That's like, this is the past couple of years where they're like, you can't do that shit. Somebody figured out, was like, nah, man, you can't do that. So that's like 2020, 2019, 18, whatever. Yeah. But I mean, it's been going on since the 40s, 30s, whatever, right? I mean,
there's absolutely
sordid history of that. I mean, my dad's 82, and he told me stories. Was like, well, yeah, before it became a big deal, you'd be sitting at because everybody went to the movies, right? The theater, they'd sit there and they'd watch all the news and everything at the theater and all this stuff. And he's like, everybody would be sitting there, and all of a sudden everybody would get up and go get a Coke. And he'd be like,
I love that story.
Yeah. And he's like, nobody would know why. It's true. And it's true. And they would just throw like one frame or two frames of a Coke, somebody poured a Coke.
Tyler Durden style, right?
Yeah. But Dad said it was real. It was everybody would get up and go get popcorn. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. And then I guess somebody caught on to it in the 50s, like late 50s, early 60s, or like, you can't do that. It's like subliminal messaging, right? I can't believe that. I'm pretty sure it's still going on.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
But you've been involved in it. I want to hear from you. I want to know some of this stuff. I'm sorry to derail you, but I mean, that's some shit I'm interested in.
No, I mean, I don't think they do. I mean, I'm sure there are people that like to experiment with ideas around that. You don't need to do subliminal messaging anymore, because people have gotten so good at crunching data and looking at demographics and behavioral patterns, all that kind of stuff, that you can use verbiage, and you can use colors and tones and different types of photography that are just going to appeal to the psychological, the typical psychological profile. So,
wow.
But being in those meetings, I mean, I work for some of the world's top advertising agencies over the years, and I've had the privilege of being in the room to see the creative process. And as a young man, you think, oh yeah, this is cool. Look at me. I'm doing a great job, and so on and so on. But then as you get a little bit older, one example, and this actually was kind of one of the things that really started putting the crack, creating that fissure for me.
Right.
I used to do a lot of freelance work. So my agent would say, okay, be at this company this time. I got a job for you, like 3-day contract or whatever.
Right.
So I turn up and I got to this place, and all my agent told me was, yeah, they create games and puzzles and challenging things to help kids in kindergarten and play groups, and they donate them. They have corporate sponsors. They create this stuff and they donate them. I thought, well, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty rad. Yeah, altruistic. Right, yeah, cool. Yeah.
So I went along. I sat down. This was in South Africa, in Cape Town, and I got there. And they started showing me the product. I shit you not. The jigsaw puzzle would be like a McDonald's logo or an IBM logo. So it was corporate logos made into kids' games. And then they're donating them to kindergarten kids. So they're literally, this is MK Ultra shit.
So it's like a bunch of ducks running around, and it's just like a McDonald's logo, and like
it wasn't even ducks. It was just the fucking logo. So they're imprinting these kids with these corporate brands. Like, yeah, get them while they're young. Get a little 3-year-old Timmy there, There you go. What's this say, Timmy? Raytheon. Look, it's a plane. Oh my God.
Lockheed Martin dropping bombs on your moms.
And I looked at it and I just stood up and I just walked out. I was like, not today. Not today. So that happened. Yeah. Yeah, so it happens.
Wow, right. I mean, that's just not even that's not even trying to be sneaky. That's just fucking doing it.
Yeah, that's just doing it. It was bad. It was bad. So yeah.
Wow.
So
but I mean, but circling back to like our senses and like our range of like, we figured out early on those liminal frames that we encompass, right? We are, as humans, we're basic. Building blocks are A, B, C, and D, and we know that we can hear in this spectrum, we can see in this spectrum, we can feel, and we can taste, and sense and smell, all of the 5, and we can manipulate the hell out of those at any time we want to for at least half of the population, if not more, at will.
Right. And when you look at it like that, you realize that going back to some of these Eastern philosophies and lessons, they basically say in what was deemed to be a very unscientific way. And I love it when, cutting edge physics collides with like 2,000-year-old philosophies. It's just like, yeah, we told you that. You're like, yes, but you didn't say it in, in math that takes up 17 chalkboards. It's like, no, we just put it in a poem. I mean,
quantum entanglement. Yeah, you could be anywhere at the same time.
Yeah, and one of the things is is literally the concept that you create your reality.
Right.
And you do in a very, very literal way. You take all of this data in from your senses and you create everything that you experience in your mind. I'm doing it for me right now. You're doing it for you. And the more people agree on something, then the more solid it becomes.
Right.
But from a cultural level, and, as we explored before in the shamanic cultures, they have a place for a certain type of experience, and because it's agreed upon within the community, then it doesn't turn into this negative.
Right. It's almost a positive. And I mean, I don't know, I maybe I caution saying it's positive, but it at least has a place at the table.
It has a place. Yeah, exactly. It's a beautiful way of saying it. They have a support system for it. Within their culture.
Yeah, definitely. So when you get to the idea of the Buddhism and tulpas and things like that, where your thought a tulpa is a thought form, right? And John Luke, I give John Luke all the credit in the world because he taught me all about tulpas, and and how that happens, where your thought actually becomes a manifestation of, and it becomes a reality at some point. It's its own entity. It leaves you and it becomes its own it's a shit way to say it, but it's its own living, breathing thing aside from you, apart from you, right? Right.
So, you're already struggling, right? Because
because it's hard to put it into words that people will understand. But it's but if you do that, like on a cultural scale, or a national scale, or a global scale, the solidity of that is astounding, right? So if you get enough people to believe that the sky on Mars is blue, it's red, right? And that's all the pictures you've ever been shown in your entire life. The sky on Mars is red because the planet's red and it doesn't reflect any light and refraction. And the reason the sky is blue on Earth is because we have a lot of water, and it bounces off, right? But that's why the sky is blue, and that's what we know, right? Well, is that real? Or is it because that's the consolidated thought from a global scale that we've been positioned to believe?
So yes and yes, right? Because and again, you start falling back into this question of what is real. So all right, so we've kind of established the idea that all right, everything you experience is kind of rendered like a video game, and this is where people love to dive straight into the idea of simulation theory. And I think there's a lot of valid thoughts around simulation theory. I hate the phrase simulation because it infers all kinds of other stuff, that there has to be another above making the simulation.
Right.
So it's a poor choice of words.
It actually devoids you of having any personal responsibility at some point, is how I feel.
Yeah, there's no agency. There's no personal agency there.
There's no, it's just like somebody else is rolling the control stick, and I'm just a non-player character running around in a game, right?
Or not necessarily non-player character, but I don't subscribe to the idea that there is another thing out there creating this thing that we're experiencing.
Right.
It'll make more sense later on. But we can acknowledge at least the idea of an objective reality isn't the way we treat it in society. Let's say that.
Right.
You can't say it's not real, because of course it's going to go out and stick a fork in your hand right now. It's going to feel very real to you.
Yeah, stick it in the light socket. That'll be a lot better.
Right, there you go. Maybe you'll see some tulpas.
Yeah. You'll create some tulpas, all right.
So yes, but that kind of sort of starts bringing me to my point of, what is real is kind of is what affects you, and what makes you react, right? Because that's what reality is, and you don't have to start defining it in any other way. I think in the West, especially from a materialist standpoint, we're very far away from understanding the true nature of reality. And I think when you start looking at these more ancient viewpoints, they at least start nibbling around the edges of a definition, which seems like it's a little more accurate. But it takes a lot more mental power, especially if you've come up in a culture that doesn't even entertain these concepts. You've really got to kind of like push yourself out of it for a second and try to start thinking in different ways.
Well, UFOs do that I could see that in all right, so just personal experience, right? So like I grew up, my dad saw UFO young, early, knew it was real. Multiple people saw another one, knew it was real. So I grew up my entire life believing it was real because of my dad's influence on me. He was like, no, UFOs are real. And, they're telling you they're not. And there's a stigma, there's this whole thing. They're saying that you're crazy and all this stuff, but like they're real, right? Like I know they're real. I'm not bullshitting you. I'm your dad. You know what I mean? Like for whatever his experience was, good, bad, or indifferent, right? That's how he felt, right? So if you have that part of objective reality ingrained in you, or at least instilled in you, like say you could be it would be the same thing coming from an Eastern culture, right? That, there's a place for this at the table. So 50 years ago, 70 years ago, whenever this happened, it became a line in the sand for a new objective reality for some people that experienced it or had an ancillary, like me, the secondary experience to it because of your belief system from the way you were raised, right?
Right. The thought starts getting injected into society,
right?
And people start considering it. And in the beginning, a new thought isn't necessarily welcomed into society.
Of course.
And I think that's a built-in mechanism.
Oh yeah.
Because, especially if you acknowledge the fact that everybody does have subjective experiences, you can't just have everybody's subjective experiences all being thrown into the pot and taken seriously straight away, because you have total chaos, right?
What do you mean the light's red? It was green to me.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my God, a Bigfoot. Oh, walking over here, went through another dimension. Well, it's interesting you should say that the other day, because I went for a ride in a spaceship, and you just have total chaos. Everything, all reality breaks down and people just go insane, because they don't have any stability or continuity from one thought to another. So it would make sense to have this kind of smoothing, this aggregation, this
right.
error correction system, where society as a whole says, yeah, your one subjective experience, I'm sorry, but it's just not valid enough for all of us to consider changing our behaviors based on what you're saying. And isn't that what we see in the paranormal communities and in the UFO community?
It is.
Someone has a profound experience, but it happened to them in a very subjective setting. And just saying that out loud that makes people upset.
It does.
Because you're saying it wasn't real. I'm saying no, not when you understand the subjective framework. Something absolutely real can happen to you. But if enough, it's the 100 monkeys thing, right?
Right.
If it doesn't happen to enough people, then we have this natural error correction system built in where the group says, no, that's not valid.
Right.
We are not going to let that information come into our shared network, and we're not going to change our behaviors on that. And I think that is very evident, and you see that happening. So there's a lot of conflict. And that conflict is built in. It seems like a natural part of the mechanism. Right.
It's just the control mechanism, internal built subjective control mechanism, where you just, it reminds me of a story I heard, which is kind of outlandish when you think of it, but it's pretty funny. But I remember in America in the 1800s, and I can't remember when it was up to, in the teens in America, and I could be wrong. I'll have to look this up, but tomatoes were thought of as poisonous.
Huh.
So wild tomatoes would grow, but there was this stigma in at least in America. I'm pretty sure it was America. I remember reading the story. I'd have to dig it out now, but it was that tomatoes are poisonous, and people would just get rid of them. You couldn't grow them, you couldn't eat them. You they were just basically nuisances and weeds, and just get it out of there, because it was like a nightshade. It was a nightshade plant, so it grew
right.
And people were just trying to get rid of them at all costs. Get rid of this tomato is just whatever. And then at some point people were like, the hell's wrong with you?
These are delicious.
Yeah, enough Italians came over to America. I was like, what the fuck's wrong with you people? We're making all kinds of sauce and pizza. You're like, hey, it's a tomato. What the fuck's wrong with you? But up until that point, up until that point, everybody's like, that's the devil. It's like, we need to get that out of here. It's like the devil's weed or something. It's like,
I'd be fascinated to see if there are reports. How many people died of tomato poisoning in America?
I don't know, but it was a fad.
I bet they did.
Yeah,
I bet they did, dude.
You think so? I bet we could probably look it up. Yeah, 15 children, school children, ate tomatoes on their break and died.
Tomato poisoning in the 1800s.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like when you think of something like that, and like literally, that's not that long ago. that's literally, and that was during the scientific method. That was during all of those things that we hold dear right now. But people still held those beliefs that tomatoes were poisonous; they're going to kill you. So what do we do with disincarnate voices? What do we do with objects we see in the sky? What do we do with Marian apparitions or Bigfoot or whatever else you can come up with? We just yeah, it's poisonous. It's going to kill us. It's the devil or whatever, whatever type of core context you have built into your subjective reality, right? But
to reject it.
Yeah, what if the UFOs are a way, and I think Valet hits on this a lot, is what if it's a way, it could be a control mechanism, but to control what? Control your belief in something outside of your subjective reality? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's enough to get enough people to see it, to get enough people to buy into it, to get enough people to, like you said, the 100 monkeys thing, to get to the point to like, well, yeah, it's real. Okay, it's real. Now what? What is it? And we know enough people, we know that through science and understanding of our five senses throughout the history, that all that's manipulative. So even if it's not something, maybe it is prosaic or whatever, but what if you could do something to manipulate, the human population's perception of an object or something to send
you mean like mass media? You could inject the idea into millions of people to see if it would come into reality and people believe it?
Sure.
It's a fascinating concept, John. I don't think anyone's ever tried that.
We're going to get this thing shut down. Somebody's going to...
But it's important to recognize the mechanism, right? And I think we've stepped through it in a decent way. I was going to touch on time. But I mean, that just gets even wilder. But if you acknowledge the fact that what we call 3D space, it doesn't really exist. It's a bunch of electrical signals coming into the brain, just like Lawrence Fishburne said when he was trying to explain the Matrix, to Neo. He's like, what is reality? If you mean the electrical signals that come from your five senses, then, that's all it is. And that is what we experience. And then if you look at the concept of time, which is intrinsically attached to space, then you face another paradox there, because you've got this, there's the past, check. There's the future, check. Okay. They meet in the middle, right? Which is apparently where we exist. Where? What is the transition point?
Now or now?
Yeah, no, now. No, now. Not then. No, now. But again, it's a complete paradox, right? You cannot explain it. And again, in these religions, they say it's the Eastern philosophies. They say that there is no time. You're like, fuck, here we go again. And that all you are doing is moving from one experience to another. And the best way to visualize that, the best analogy, is the idea that you're just like watching a movie or reading a book. The entire story is contained within the book, and you can hold the book in your hand, and you could call that book, your life from birth to death. Now, you can't just kind of look at that book. Well, certainly not at the level we're at. You can't look at that book and absorb everything in one go and have that whole experience. You have to read word by word, page by page, in a kind of a linear way to understand the relationships between the events, the continuity of the events, to go from birth to death and have a whole life experience, right?
Of course. So
it's just the illusion of time, in that we are moving from one experience to another. And there's block universe theory, right, which kind of goes into these ideas. So if that's of interest to anyone, something you can go and look at. Which, kind of a little tangent here, it really kind of makes me suspicious of time travel ideas. Because people say, well, people in the future can come back to the past. Like, well, time doesn't even exist. So I'm already confused.
So they're here now.
Well, also, if at any point in the future, any point, I mean, you can go on to infinity, and I've got a problem with infinity too, but we won't get into that. If at any point in the future someone had developed time travel, they would have come back. We'd know. You'd already know, right? And like, well, they haven't done it yet. What do you mean yet? There is no yet. Now, excuse me, I got to go take some more mushrooms. I got to work this out.
There is no yet.
Right. It's and you really start to get into these paradoxes, these problems, and even in physics, a lot of physicists do acknowledge, it's the reason we have quantum physics and we have classical physics, because all of the ideas around classical physics just fall into this pit of infinity, and like all the math just collapses as soon as you get too small. Or
Newtonian
too big.
Physics just collapses at some point, and it has to. But then that's where you come into, like, I mean, you and I are in IT, right? And we would like to say that we have a good concept of technology to the state of the art. Basically we keep up with everything, right? Try to explain a quantum computer to your 82-year-old father, right? Try to explain it to your 15-year-old daughter. Try to explain it to anybody.
I could barely.
I could barely wrap my mind around it at all. But yet they're still producing the first commercial model that's going to go on sale next year.
Yeah, because they have the quantum cookbook. They say, look, we just know if we do this, we get that.
Right.
And on a probability curve, and so we can use that. We can work with that. We don't really have to understand everything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I was married once, and we loved each other very much, and kissy face, and now I've got 2 kids. I don't know.
Bing, bing, boom.
I don't know what happened.
But
it's all good. I got 2 beautiful daughters that I love very much. So don't worry about the rest.
No,
but you get a result. But that's kind of the quantum cookbook right there.
That's the most eloquent way to describe a quantum computer that I could come up with.
How do you like that, Jack Safradi? I guess tell me I don't know a damn thing.
I didn't get a phone call from 1952 telling me I would solve the Tic Tac mystery in 2022.
I didn't need no alien implant to make me that smart.
Oh my God.
I've had half a beer. Now you tell me what else you need solving. I'll take care of that for you.
Write down that formula. But I tell you what, but the thing is that bothers me with that is that shit's at least 50 years old. It's at least 50 years old that shit's been in the hands of our government, the United States government. They've been fucking with that forever. And I know for sure that at least 15 years ago, China had a quantum computer on a fucking satellite. It's still up there. That they have quantum communications that you can't hack. I mean, there's
this stuff doesn't happen overnight.
No, attach AI to that, and then
you get two more babies, 2 more kids.
Yeah, or in different dimensions. Who the fuck knows, right?
Entangled, quantum entangled kids. That's what it is.
They can speak to each other in a language only twins teach each other.
It's your viewers right now are like, what the fuck am I listening to?
Every video I have ever had, my viewers like, what the fuck am I listening to? But that's what's cool about it. I don't give a shit. I mean, I enjoy people, and I enjoy being real and honest with everybody I could possibly be. And I think that's really the secret, to share. I think that's part of it, is to share the experience, to share the joy, to share the love, to share the pain, the hope, the sorrow. Yeah. I think that's really what it's all about, man. I really do.
Explore as well. I think there's this amazing pressure these days with social media. You don't say anything unless you can, unless it's 100% true, and you have to be able to back it up. And you say a word wrong, someone's going to tear you to shreds. And there's no space for people to be able to say, hey, I'm dancing along here. I'm trying to learn. I'm going to make lots of mistakes.
Right. Oh yeah.
And
it's like the shaman thing. I think we could take that back to the shamanistic thing. I think we need more of the Eastern culture thing in that regard, where exactly like you just said, there's no space for the outlier, right? There's no space for the outlier in the cyber world, right? Or the social media world, where, all right, well, this guy's a girl's has wild accusations or experiences or whatever, and immediately they're shut down. Same thing we do in the Western culture, right? Well, basically the cyber world, the internet, whatever, is built on the Western influences, right? I mean, obviously this shit didn't come out of a cave in Tibet, or it'd be completely different. Right? Obviously it's built on the Western, framework for what we believe is objective reality, right? So how do you merge the two? And I think it just comes down to individual people, and maybe it does take each of us being able to be accepted, accept somebody. You don't have to hold them up as the next messiah or hold everything they say is true, but at least be compassionate enough and empathetic enough to entertain the idea that they're going through something that maybe we can't relate to or experience. And it's not that they're wrong or bad, and it just doesn't sync with us, but there's no need to shame them or dox them or throw them under the bus or ostracize them or whatever. But I mean, and ultimately, if it becomes something that's detrimental to you, or you can't relate to it, and you just can't, obviously you just disregard it, because if it's dragging you down or holding your beliefs in a way that you can't relate to it. But man, we're real quick to be like, that guy's crazy, or this girl's or whatever, and that's worldwide, which is sad.
Yeah, well, I think whenever you get new information, you feel like under this pressure to make a judgment call on it as soon as you receive it. And if you don't do any kind of research, you can't do that. You have to take information, you have to just gather it together, and just say, I don't know. I think from an experiencer standpoint as well, you do have to acknowledge and sort of push back on the experiences a little bit and say, look, I'll listen to you, but I'm not going to listen to you if you sit there and just start proclaiming all of these truths about it. I'm totally fine with you saying, I don't know what that was. I mean, I've had experiences. I had an experience about 5 or 6 years ago. I'm walking down my driveway. I'm just taking the trash cans out on a Sunday night. It's dark. And I've been in the house a good 6 or 7 years. So I'm very familiar with the topography, the landscape, the mountains around me. And up in the sky, there is a diamond of 4 lights. Perfect diamond of 4 lights. And I know there aren't any houses there. It was much higher than the mountains.
It's just sky, right? Sky.
Yeah, it was just sky. And they weren't particularly far away. I mean, they looked like they were within a mile or so. And they're just there, just in the sky, a diamond of 4 lights. And I stop and I look at them for a bit. Well, that's weird. And I put my trash cans out.
They're like, fuck it.
What are you going to do? And I walk up my driveway and I turn around and I stand and I look at them. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
That was your moment. That was your Kundalini moment right there.
It was right there. It was like one of those little cracks, Yeah. And but to this day, I don't know what it was.
It was your worldview just shaking. Like that was it. But then you said fuck it and walked in the house, didn't you? You're like,
what else are you gonna do? It's like I'm just gonna go back inside again. They're not doing anything. They're not gonna fly down and talk to me. They're not. It's just a perfect diamond and it was a large diamond. It wasn't like some little cluster. It was a large diamond.
White lights, bright lights, green.
Yeah, white lights, much brighter than the stars behind them. No noise. For no apparent reason whatsoever. And I look at that now and I wonder to myself, did I have a subjective experience? Did anybody else see those lights?
Right.
And I had no framework for that before. But I'm not going to start running around saying to everyone, that was a UFO, or that was an angel, or that was, because I don't know what the fuck it was.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But it was something.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's a great place to be. And I know we talked about this in the chat today because I brought it up, and this is hilarious. But like Nick Hinton and I were hanging out at my deck, right?
Yeah.
And this is, I think it was last summer, and we're hanging out, and we're talking, and it's been, it's getting dark. It's dark now, right? It's dark, and we're hanging out, and I've seen this a little bit before, but it's like James Ian Dooley did a video on it about flash bulbs, right? So like you're looking at the sky, and it's just like it looks like a flash bulb going off, and there's videos of it all over. You can look online, just a poof, 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 and you're like, what is that? It looks like a, an old school flash bulb going off, And I've seen, I had seen it before as well, but Nick is sitting. I'm sitting with my back to the house, and Nick is sitting, like I'm facing you, and he's sitting there, and we're talking, and it's just going boom, 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 boom all around him. I go, Nick, turn around. And he turns around and he goes, yeah, fuck it. I just ignore that shit anyway.
Right. What are you gonna do?
Oh, it's like the sky's exploding behind you. Just like, yeah, fuck it. It just happens all the time. I don't know.
There's only so many cell phone videos you could take of that.
Yeah. He's like, it's just fuck it. I don't care anymore. And it's just like, well, at some point, the crazy diamond experience you have or whatever experience, it's like, it's fucking part of my reality now.
Right. And Nick is one of those people that has gone so far out beyond that objective experience. Ripley, my cat, she likes to come and join in on Zoom and stuff.
There she is. Hello.
Go away, Ripley. You cannot be on the internet. You're not above 13 years old.
Oh my God. Good.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, but, it's all right.
Yeah, Nick is one of those people. He's just gone so far out beyond any of this, worrying about if something is one thing or another thing.
I love it, man. Because he's just,
yeah.
I think once you get to the point where you just welcome it, it comes in. But that's scary too. I mean, because you're asking for it at that point. You are honestly asking for it. And, you get on these podcasts where Semi-Van and all these other guys are like, you shouldn't do CE5 and you don't know what you're bringing in. And, maybe they do know a little bit more than we know, but maybe not. But you get into that whole, what are you interacting with? And I've had a couple positive experiences doing CE5 in group settings where we've had orbs come in, right? But what is that,
Right. And has your... if you're into the CE5 stuff and you spend
heist, that's what they call it now, heist, the human initiated initiated contact. Yeah, when I get CE5 has got the Greer dirt stamp on it, so they don't want anybody talking about.
Oh, geez, change the acronym, rebrand.
UAP, UFO, USAO, USAO.
But I mean, if you spend time doing that stuff, I know James specializes in that stuff. He's got a long history and he's really dedicated to that. Is your intent creating something?
Of course it is.
Within your reality?
Yes.
So the first question is, how subjective is that experience? When you do it with other people, and we know this again from studies, right? You multiply intent, the more people that you add. As long as you have good focus and you're able, that all the people in your group are disciplined enough to really be able to stay on point. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 3. And then you add another, and that's the power of 6. Then you add another, and that's the power of 12. It seems to be this exponential growth rate when you get focus and intent.
As prayer, right? When you get enough people to go, it's the same thing as prayer, right?
How many experiments are out there where they're like, oh yeah, we got this plant over here, and everybody pray for that plant,
and everybody yells at this one, and
and they show it happening. So what you've got is interactions between energy systems, and this gets to another point, again, going back to Eastern philosophies. And this is the one that really kind of like smacked me about the head. This was the one that took me a really long time to... Bye, Ripley. There she goes. She's leaving. It really, like, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And it was the idea that thoughts... And I don't want to say, actually, I shouldn't say thoughts, because thoughts are kind of from the conscious mind, right? So let's say intent, or intent. Emotion, something much more visceral, something deeper down. Create the objects in your reality. And I'm like, what? I mean, what do you even mean by that? I mean, I hear the words.
Right.
But surely you don't mean what the words sound like you're saying. And if you look at the Seth Speaks books, right? I wrote it down here so I wouldn't forget it.
Yeah.
as you read the words upon this page, you realize that the information that you are receiving is not an attribute of the letters or the words themselves. And we do that every day, right? We read words, we understand what the words mean. They're representative of something else.
An object or a person, place, thing, whatever. Yeah.
An emotion, a fear.
And yes, we've distilled a unlimited amount of senses into a very short cryptographic thing that we can read and understand.
A symbol.
Yeah. Pretty much symbology. Right. Yeah.
Right. And again, we have this fracture where we're okay, well, that's words and language. But when you start talking about symbols and symbology, it's like, I don't understand that. But so you do, because you do it every single day. The alphabet is a bunch of symbols, right? And you assemble them all together to express different thoughts and ideas. But then the Seth Speaks thing carries on and says, words are methods of expression. So physical objects are in a different kind of medium. And that it took me so long to wrap my head around this concept that physical objects are rendered in your subjective reality, and they are a representation of an intent or an emotion. And until you build the framework of understanding that your entire witnessed subjective reality is actually a result of what your brain builds anyway, then it kind of opens the door, I think, for the Western mind, for the materialistic mind, to understand this possibility that you can absolutely create something that appears
in your physical reality.
In your physical reality, because it is generated out of all of the same signals that your brain uses to build what you witness every single day. Now, the trap there that we fall into a lot is saying, oh, well, you're just saying I'm making it up. It's like, whoa, slam the brakes on there. Listen to everything we just discussed. In that context, you're saying you make everything up.
Right.
Right. So you can't just switch lanes whenever you feel like it. But again, we've been programmed to think this way in our culture.
We have.
So now we've got this idea that I can generate things, very, very real things, within my own subjective experience, at least.
At least that, right.
Now, if I'm extremely good at this, my intent, my will, could potentially manifest it in another person's subjective reality. One person, 10 people, 100 people. How good am I?
Exponentially, like we said, the multiplications of it. Then you could walk on water.
All right. Or I could feed a lot of people with a couple of fishes, a couple of loaves of bread.
You can heal the sick.
Yeah, absolutely. Water into wine.
That's kind of how that works.
Right? So it really starts to shatter your world when you start to look at these things and take them into consideration.
It does, but not for the Eastern culture, the Eastern part of the world. That's just another day, where
they're like, well, duh.
Well, yeah.
Duh, that's how reality exists. And it's very hard to argue against it. Yeah, it's very hard to argue against it.
You can't.
And like you say, there are plenty of scientific studies that have taken place that have shown the reality.
Yes.
Reality. You're like, oh shit, I can't use that word anymore.
Right.
Of intent and will manifesting in very, very real ways in our world.
Yes.
Now, I think anyone listening to this could say, yeah, well, but you didn't get 1,000 people to all sit around and meditate and and make a dinosaur pop into existence.
Dino beavers.
Ooh, good point. Only ambling dino beavers, though, very slow ones.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, no, that's a fair enough argument. Right. But how many of those people believe they could do that?
Right.
Because it's not about knowing. Sorry, it's not about believing. It's about knowing.
Right.
Because believing is an intellectual thing.
Right.
Knowing is a visceral thing. And
it's a right brain thing. That's where you get to the whole right brain, left brain thing. And so like it divides back into that's where the religions of renown have held power for all these millennia, right? Where you get 1,000 people who believe that
they
know, but they also believe, right? So they believe.
You got to get them there, yeah.
Yeah, so they believe because they're showing up, and they know that this is going to happen. They know that the Eucharist is Jesus's body and blood, right? They know that, and they believe it, right? So when they do that, so is it? Well, I don't know. Is it? It is to them, right? So is it any less real to anybody else that's not a part of that subjective reality? Possibly, if their subjective reality is exponentially greater than the sum of the whole of all those people that are there. But how, we know that humanity from existence has been separated in a duality, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, whatever. You can divide it up into a billion different things. And I think that is one of the greatest tricks that or control mechanisms or whatever you want to call it that's been played out upon humanity since time immemorial, is that you can't get everybody on the same quote wavelength to believe one thing or two things. I mean, obviously we can do, water's wet, sand is dry, things like this, right? But not
obviously though. I've got to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Not obviously, because you've actually shown that there are perfect examples where everybody is on the same page. And it's where you start to try and shoehorn people into beliefs. That's where you can't get everybody on the same page. Right. But there seem to be visceral, accepted values and understanding about our world that everybody does believe in, and so we all dream the same dream, and we make it very, very real. So the fascinating idea about that is, if you could do something that could not convince. God, I gotta watch my words. If you could do something that would inject a knowing into the root reality rendering engine of every human being on planet Earth, that people could fly, could we all just fly?
Maybe.
And the materialists will say, well, the laws of physics don't allow for that. It's like the laws of physics could also be a part of this rendering engine.
Exactly. So when you start losing beliefs in the laws of physics, does that change corporal reality? Probably.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to break through again from believing to knowing.
So that's what the materialistic standpoint comes into play as far as subjective reality and science, where we talked about this earlier, where I can repeat this experiment in France, I can do the same thing over here in Budapest, and we can do this thing in China, and it's repeatable and whatever. So until we've subjugated ourselves to believe in more of a sacramental type of reality where this equals that, and if this doesn't equal that, then it doesn't exist via science or the scientific method, right?
And they've tried to we've tried to hijack the high ground on that, the intellectual high ground.
But this doesn't fit into this box, then it doesn't exist. But if you start manipulating that science box, that repeatable scientific method box, or not hijack, but I mean, if you could use the five senses, the manipulation of the five senses to hijack that scientific box by making things appear in the sky.
Yeah. I mean, it gets into creepy territory, right? It gets into very
it's MK Ultra, right? It's the mind control. It's all that shit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One more thing I kind of wanted to bring into that sort of whole sort of objects.
You got to reel me in. You got to reel me in.
I know we're on tangent. And this is why I had to write a bunch of this stuff down, because it flies off all over the place. There's a great book called The Cipher of Genesis by Carlos Suarez. I got that.
Okay.
Cipher
of Genesis. Okay.
Fantastic read. I highly recommend it for anyone who's kind of interested in the stuff we're talking about today. One of the things that he tries to present in this book, he presents a lot in this book about what Genesis really means. It's pretty wild.
Right.
But one of the things he points out is the ideas around the Hebrew alphabet. Katav Ashuri. I apologize to anyone who can pronounce that better if I butchered that. But the Hebrew alphabet, it's a variant of the Phoenician alphabet.
Okay.
And he points out the idea that not only we already know that letters and numbers are shared by the same symbol in Hebrew alphabet, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But he explains that in Hebrew, if you pronounce the sound of the letter correctly, then in a cymatic way, that sound generates the shape of the letter.
Wow. Interesting.
Right. Let that sink in for a second. So now we have got sound, which is harmonics, which is energy, creating a shape, which is also a letter and also a number.
Wow.
And think of the elegance of a communication system like that. It's math, it's language, it's form, it's energy, and all of these things are transmutable backwards and forwards. So it's not just one way, it's another way. And we already understand that every shape, every physical shape in what we consider to be reality resonates and puts off its own frequency, its own harmonic.
Right.
So the shape is the harmonic creates the shape. And then we've got the idea that we have this language
that creates a sound,
very ancient language that creates a sound, which creates the shape, which is the symbol of the language. I'm just like, like, what the hell?
Basically, you're speaking things into existence at that point.
Speaking things into existence, right? So,
physical existence.
Yeah, absolutely. In the beginning, there was the word, right? And just like, oh my God, stop making these connections. You're freaking me out. But
tune in next week, everybody.
But these are all the things we've been told. We've been told this in countless doctrines, in countless philosophies from all over the world. And I love finding these common denominators. So now we have these idea that, okay, we know that objective reality doesn't exist. We've proven to ourselves that our entire existence that we witness is built inside of our mind. There is no time. And we're accepting the idea now that you can actually will and intent things into existence, at least in your own subjective reality.
Via words.
And those physical objects are actual representations of the intent with which you created them, whether you did it consciously or subconsciously.
You have to watch your thoughts and your words.
You have to watch your thoughts and your words.
So I'm going to tell you something. I think you and I have talked about this in private, and John Warner told me this. And I'm sure it'll come out in one of the, we did 3 hours while we were at the farm. And I'm sure it's in one of those conversations, but from what John was saying is that, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of who and what and where and how and all of that, but basically humans this is from John, that humans are valued all over the cosmos because of this ability. And this is interesting that we've tied this into this, that because of the ability that, for example, let's just theorize here that there's a different set of rules in physics for another advanced race somewhere else, that whenever they walk into a room, everything that is needed is created at that moment mentally or via words or telepathy, whatever you want to come up with, right? So we can use this, we can speak the words, the sounds, the vowels, create this table, this chair, this microphone, all these things that are around us.
Right.
But they're there for the only in proximity to your periphery of it, right? Your creation of it, right? So these are all here. As soon as I walk out of here, all this disappears, right?
Right. Yeah, you're rendering
your media of this. Yeah. So from what John told me that he's heard from whoever is that humans are valued and used as a commodity at some point, because when we do the same thing and walk into a room, we create the same rendering that we are here. You and I here, I'm wearing this shirt, this coat, this hat, these headphones, whatever. But when I walk out of this room and you and I walk out of this room, this stuff is still here. This is still a physical object that's still present. And nobody and apparently nobody else can do that.
That's a lot of power.
So that we are coveted and sought after and used for the creation of this objective reality that exists in our proximity that we can manifest. So we're just gonna this whiskey glass exists. And when I walk out of the room, it's still gonna exist. It's still here.
Yay, humans.
But when these Octurians, whoever the hell, walk out, that shit goes with them, right? Like, so
they're like, guys.
They're like, how do we get more of the whiskey? What's going on, right? So,
fucking amateurs.
I'm just putting it out there. I mean,
I haven't done that before.
I'm just saying that, like, wow. I mean, that is new information that have been presented to this year. Like you said, you take everything in and you see where it fits. But if you put that in the context of what we've been discussing, like, it's amazing, right? So if we have this innate ability to create solidic objects with our objective thoughts, words, speech,
emotion,
intent,
right?
And when we do it,
well, what do humans
unconsciously?
What do humans do?
Like unconsciously.
What have humans always done since the beginning of time? It doesn't matter how advanced we get. What do we always do? We create. We can't stop creating. We can't stop building shit.
Yeah.
And exploring. I mean, it's what we do. So it's certainly an interesting way of looking at it.
It's an interesting concept. I mean, even if it's just complete nonsense, it's still a nice paradigm.
Well, again, you don't have to take it literally either.
No.
It's important to look at these things in allegory,
right?
Because so many of the lessons that are taught and survive the tests of time are allegory, because language changes, concepts change, the way we look at the world changes. So you have to build lessons into these timeless communications that continue to stand up.
Of course.
And if you look at, the evidence that, coming together, communing to amplify the power and the solidity of the experience that you create, then you start to understand then the Eastern idea of we're not separate. It's like, I love the idea of, like, there's all these little branches on a tree, right? And you're one little branch, waving in the wind over there. I'm a little branch. Oh, what's up, John? How's it going over there? And I say to you, you know what? I am an individual. I am completely separate from all things, and you look at me, you're like, you're a fucking idiot. I could see all
Look
the way
down
from you. Look down. I can see all the way down from you. You go all the way down to a thicker branch, a thicker branch, a thicker branch, all the way down to the tree, and the tree is planted in the earth, and the root systems of the tree.
all the way down.
Yeah, they're connected to the mycelium network, and so on and so on. So I think the proof is almost there. The fact that we can come together to amplify intent, it means that you are all actually connected, and you're resonating together in a stronger way. You're turning up the volume. There's more voices in the choir, right? More voices singing that song into existence.
Well, that's what I mean. This is crazy, and I know everybody gives DeLong a lot of shit, but one of the things. I mean, I went to see him. Oh, I don't know what year it was, but when he did his Angels and Airwaves tour before the new album, and he plays this thing at like midway through the concert where it was like just this female voice that comes on. It's like hey, science has proven that everybody, when they attend a concert, everybody's wavelengths sync up to whatever. I don't know if it's alpha, theta, whatever, but everybody's on the same wavelength, and all this stuff. Now, somebody recorded it, and I actually have it on one of my videos, believe it or not. But it's like the power of that, of music and the resonance and the sound, and getting all of that group of people together to be on that same type of wavelength, and I keep saying wavelength, but the frequency or whatever, the rhythm, the feel, or whatever. But
it's like a sympathetic synchronicity of resonance, like everyone's starting to vibrate in the same way. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And that's powerful. I mean, that's a powerful thing. I mean, that's when you go back to even the the tribalistic drumming and the rhythm and the sounds, and you get into all of those things. Yeah.
Flow state.
And you get into that, and it's like, those are the type of things that can change the world,
And why are so many experiences connected to flow state activities? Music, art, dance, painting. There are so many flow state activities you can do, but if you start looking at the statistics of experiences, it'll pop out to you real quick.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So again, it's not we're not making massive leaps here.
Right.
You just got to connect the dots, and you got to just start looking at the way we experience reality, the way we experience each other, the way we interact with each other, and drop all of these absolutes around materialist reductionism, and then things start becoming a lot clearer.
Right.
And then you can see why these cultures don't have any problem with the idea of, oh yeah, there's grandma's spirit come walking on by today, because they understand the fundamental
kid's a shaman.
framework.
Bring him over. Yeah, bring the shaman kid over. Yeah.
And because they believe it, they reinforce it. So it's a biofeedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think if you look at reality, keep saying the word reality, but I think we've addressed what we mean by reality.
Right.
We look at it as a biofeedback mechanism, but the bio isn't you. You are the intent generating the objects and the reality. The bio is the feedback saying, yeah, you're doing it right. Look. And then that reinforces, it spreads out more and more and more.
Amplifies,
and you start to
and spreads, right. Completely.
And solidify it, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've acknowledged that, we create the universe, not a big deal. And we're all connected. We're all part of it. And we can all resonate. We can experience as individuals, as an individual branch on the tree. And that seems to be a very important part of our experience. It's very deliberate.
Right.
But we can all come together, and we can literally manifest whatever kind of reality we want. So if we're all connected, what does that make the alien? I don't know. I'm looking at your face like, shit, I'm supposed to answer this question. That's the biggest question right there, because we keep saying,
I have the answer. Jealous.
But it's not separate from us.
Still jealous.
Yeah, because we're cool.
Because we can make shit up and walk away and it's still there.
Yeah, that's right. And
imagine being the most sought after thing in the entire known universe and every other universe, but not knowing anything about it. Imagine being like this most sought after, like, wondrous thing that can manifest reality via thought, emotion, sound, and then amplify it when you create unification with more of us, but just have no fucking idea that you can do any of that. And then just us wandering around going, oh, yeah, whatever.
Just randomly making shit.
Yeah, just making shit like, oh, yeah. But I mean, that's us. That's literally humans. Right? It's just like, fuck you and fuck you too. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, then, there's this whole entire realm of reality that envies
but
us.
Isn't that
whatever, right? Like,
isn't that terrifyingly dangerous though?
Yes,
as well.
Yeah. But how would you tell anybody that? How would you tell anybody that? Right.
Yeah.
You couldn't. Right. UFOs aren't real.
I need to go manifest some pee.
This is good. No, I think we should kill it right now, because this is like, if anybody made it through this, thank you. Because I can't believe we made it through this. I mean, we could have 15 more of these, but honestly,
I think we got like a third of the way through.
Yeah.
That what we were going to talk about.
No, it's good. We'll bring John, Luke, and Jenna in, and Nick, and who else. But I think that this is a good like, just putting your foot in the door and opening it up enough to get the rest of the conversation, because the rest of the conversation is dark and it's not really what you want to listen to.
It absolutely is. And I think you made the right point earlier, is, pay attention to your thoughts and your intents and your feelings. Because
and your words, right. Yeah.
And your words. Yeah. Because I really do think that we are creating our world every single moment. And you absolutely create your own subjective reality, of course, at the very minimum. And the world you see is the world you're making. And then, of course, when you start grouping together with other people of intent,
amplifies.
Then it amplifies, and pay attention to the intent of the groups.
Yeah. And I always try and like, I force myself, and everybody's like, you're so positive. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm pushing myself to do it. Like,
right.
I am. I really am. And like, that whole axiom is, fake it till you make it. That's real. Yeah. That's real. If you really want to be positive and more and happier and more spiritual, or like you want more love in your life and all this shit, just fucking pretend to do it, and just keep pretending to do it. And then it's going to happen. That's literally how you do it, man. You just got to pretend and put some emotion behind it and feel it, because like sometimes it sucks and you don't want to get out of bed and you hate everybody, but like push yourself to just try to love, or pretend to say that you love everybody, or just do that, and then keep focusing on it. And that's kind of how I've found out that shit works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Build those neural pathways by doing the behaviors, and make it a little bit easier each time. Also, I mean, just ask yourself how you're feeling about stuff. On a much more regular basis.
Right.
And it can be so tiny. You're out for a walk. Instead of just being like, oh, I'm out for a walk, I've got 20 minutes before I've got to be back in the office. If the wind blows on your face, say to yourself, how does that feel to me?
Right.
Just pay a lot more attention to what's going on with yourself, because you might be creating universes.
And with that, we love you guys. We'll see you part 14 coming up next, which is going to be amazing. We're going to have people from different star systems here. It's going to be nuts.
Yep. It'll be a busy room, but it should be fun. Hey, man, but thanks for having me on. I know we talk a lot offline, and we do a lot of great work kind of in the shadows.
Oh yeah.
But I kind of appreciate the fact that you're willing to sit down and sort of talk through some of this stuff, because it's in a very, very different place, I think, to where a lot of people are focusing their attention. And I'm just hoping that, if we start talking about this stuff, then people will start considering it and sort of maybe integrating it into their own frameworks of the way they're looking at things. And I know maybe it'll help some people sort of make a few things fit into place.
Yeah. And if not, they're going to be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, these crazy bastards. What the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, but you're right. No, I'm making jokes because, if you can't laugh, you can't have fun. And I think that's a big part of the whole thing. But you're completely right, man. Like you got to be able to speak from your heart and from the things that you at least want to have conversations about. You don't have to buy into all of it. You don't have to believe everything hook, line, and sinker, but at least open your mind to the possibility that all of these things are possible. And even if they're not, or even if they don't fit into your framework, at least gives you the bandwidth to be able to think for your own and create your own realities, or create your own theories and theses, and find the other people that you think are along your same pathway. And man, we're here to help if we can. And God love you if you like, just do it.
Read more books.
Yes.
Definitely read more books.
Right. Don't believe everything you read, though, either.
No, absolutely. Put it all in the gray bin and see what sticks. Yeah,
see what sticks, and know that you're not alone. That's the big thing. Know that you're not alone.
Yeah,
and you can do it. You can do it, and you can make it. And Joel, thanks for being my friend. Thanks for being rad. Thanks for talking about the things that most people don't want to talk about. And thanks for being open-minded enough to start from one end of the spectrum where you did to be where you're at now. Because that was hard. That was hard. That's hard for anybody. But I mean, it was hard for you. And I've watched you this whole time. And man, I'm proud of you.
Thanks, dude. I love you, man. It has been a hell of a ride, but you guys have been there the whole time, and we've constantly just bounced ideas off each other, and we just keep exploring, and that is the best part about all of this. So let's just keep doing it, man. Let's just keep doing it.
Let's keep doing it, and like, no judgment, right? I mean, you do what you do, and at least be there for somebody, right? That's super, super fucking rad. I love you, man. Thank you so much, man.
All right. Take care, dude. Bye.
You too. Good night.